What are a few of your favorite memories of your dad?
I think some of my favorite memories of Grandpa were all related to work. He had a lot of projects for us to do, and I don't know if being the youngest, I'm sure I probably missed out on some projects, but it seemed like there was always, every Saturday morning, 7 a.m., there's always weeds to be pulled. And I remember one year in particular, he had a very good garden that he was pretty proud of his tomatoes. And I just remember going down there and helping him weed the garden. He would tell me about each type of plant, and he would tell me, he's very specific, don't pull these ones, that it's, these are not grown up yet, but they will eventually be really good tomatoes, and they will be good. I don't even remember what it was, but he had all of his plants. And then another favorite memory was Halloween, and his he would have a victim, and I don't think I ever got to be the victim. I just remember him kids would come up the stairs and the victim would be down on the grass, and then they would knock on the door, and they'd have the screen door open, and they would be looking in the door, and somebody nice would come to the door and give them their candy, and then he would be standing behind the screen door. And I think it's Kevin, Hinton Richard's son, that still won't come to our house. Yeah, I think those are just shows his tender care of caring for a garden and teaching us the value of work. And then he still liked to laugh and have fun and terrorize little children. That's the way I remember him.
So one of my favorite memories of Grandpa is when we were doing scouting for food here when I lived here in Hurricane, and I was helping a troop pick up some last remaining stuff and dropped it off at Karen Share, and he was there with a whole line of people that he was helping with food, getting food. So it's his service and his ability to connect with people and help them all the time. So he was always helping the needy, whether it was through ambulances calls or through the food bank stuff or just holding grandbabies. When we lived here again, we'd come into sacrament meeting and be able to drop off kids, and Lucy would just curl up on his shoulder and they would both go to sleep during sacrament meeting. It was pretty awesome. So yeah, that's some of my favorite memories of Grandpa.
I like that he would always give me a hug and tell me he loves me and remember who I am.
I remember we were at the Wolf Creek, what are they called? We were just there for a family reunion. I remember we were playing ping pong. And we just went up there, and the first hit I did, it hit him straight in the forehead and left a big red welt on his forehead. And yeah, that was a pretty fun memory. We were just laughing about it. It was a good time. So
one of my favorite is the stories that he told. Like, there was a tribe of Indians, and there was this wise old Indian, and he would ask all the rest a question each week or something. And then there was this one Indian that thought I could catch a bird, and if the wise man said it was dead, then he would would let it fly away. But if he said it was alive, he would crumple it and let it fall to the ground. When he showed it to the wise man, he said, that is your decision, and that relates to our life of what we can do in our lives, good or bad.
What are a few of your favorite memories about Grandpa?
Playing games with him. We played Diablo 2 a lot, and we had fun. We had the entire family. We played StarCraft, and I had a blast with that. We went to a firefight house, and we just set up computers and gamed and had fun.
We went on a road trip to North Dakota and South Dakota, and I remember for hours upon hours in the car between places he would tell us stories about when he was a missionary. I can't remember the other ones now. How he was adopted by an Indian tribe and given a horse. Just stories like that. And then another was when I came down here last summer, I believe, and I helped Grandma and Grandpa do lawn work.
What are a few of your favorite memories about Grandpa?
Opening presents on Christmas.
What are a few of your favorite memories about Grandpa?
Going to the timeshares and playing.
What are a few of your favorite memories about Grandpa, and why?
That he was nice, and I would go on work. I would work for him. When I was talking to Mom on the phone, like a few days ago, Mom asked me this question, and I mostly remember him when I walked into his office. Mm-hmm. So, he was like working. So, yeah.
My favorite memory of my dad is that when you walked into the room to get a hug, he gave the best hugs, and you were the most important person to him, and he truly cared about what you were doing, and he wanted to know how you were and what was going on in your world, and he would kiss you with his whiskers, and he would rub up against you and tickle you with his whiskers, and he was just the best friend to anyone and everyone who needed something. He was there, and I will always remember that the most is my dad's hugs and the love that I felt from him.
I love Grandpa because he loved me.
One of my favorite memories about Grandpa was his willingness to serve and to help anyone. I remember we were at a cousin activity over at Hannah's house, and my little brother Peyton got hurt, and he skidded his knee or something, and he was bleeding a lot. And so we were heading back over to Grandma's house. Grandpa was driving, and Peyton was crying and sobbing, and I kept trying to comfort him and asking about his day or what his favorite TV show is or what his favorite thing was. And Grandpa was just helping me and teaching me how to do first aid and clean up Peyton's wound, and he's complimenting me on my ways of distracting Peyton from being hurt. And he's just so good and caring and loving, and always knew how to help when you were hurt.
The favorite thing that I like about Grandpa is the fun stories that he told, and one of them was that there was this person, and that was an Indian that was walking up the mountain, and at the bottom it was warm, and as he got up it got colder, and there was this snake said, "I'm so cold," and then the boy said, he said, "I know what you are, you're a rattlesnake and you're gonna bite me." And then he said, "No, I'm so cold, just bring me down, I promise not to bite you." And he brought him down, and then the boy screamed because the snake bit him in the chest, and the boy said, "You bit me," and then that was it.
What is one of your favorite memories about Grandpa?
I would pretend like I was being an animal, and it just makes him smile, so it made me feel good.
What is some of your favorite memories about Grandpa and why?
When I was a baby and he was holding me at Soots.
I don't know.
Who was Grandpa to you? What did you like about Grandpa?
That he was funny.
So not long ago when they came to visit us, there was one night he was like explaining to me about all about how the heart works and how the blood pumps through the heart and all of that. It was really interesting.
What are a few of your favorite memories about Grandpa?
He was always playful. Whenever I came over, he found an opportunity to tease me or tickle me or make fun of me in a funny way. Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite is that whenever I talk to him or anything, he always said, remember you're loved and remember you're a child of God.
Grandpa always made me, he always made everyone feel important. No matter who you were, he would, if he could always tell, if you were having a bad day or whatever, he would just come and give you, a really big hug and tell you were loved and made you feel important.
What are a few of your favorite memories about Grandpa?
I remember when I had my last child, baby number 6, and she was C-section, and Grandma and Grandpa came down to Arizona to help us with all the kids and with me after my surgery. And I remember watching Grandpa sew curtains for me and make food for the kids and get involved with the kids. It was cute.
Probably the most significant or best memory that I have of Greg was that he always made sure that we felt loved and that he told us so.
I remember when I was growing up, my dad handing me a part to my car, and saying, "Go put it in. This is how you do it." And he sat in his room while I went out in the driveway and put the part in. And then he came out and checked it and made sure it was good. And then years later, I was trying to put new windshield wiper blades on my car while I was here. And he was laughing at me because I could not figure out how to get them on. And there was just 3 pictures in the instructions. And he thought it was pretty funny that I couldn't figure it out with 3 pictures. And so he finally came out and helped me put them on. And after about 45 minutes of cussing the stupid 3 pictures on the instructions, he finally was able to get it. But I thought it was pretty funny that he made fun of me for not being able to figure out those detailed instructions, and then he struggled with it. So my most recent memory, maybe I shouldn't do this one. Robert and I were able to take my parents up to Zion one last time a couple months ago when we were here, and we went to lunch, and got pie and ice cream at the Bumbleberry Inn and took the shuttle through Zion, and Mom and Dad were just happy to be there together. I felt kind of bad that Robert and I wanted to go on a hike, but of course they weren't able to go with us. I left them. We left them at the lodge, and they just wandered around. And they, when we got back from the hike, I was saying that I'd felt bad for leaving them there while we went off, and Mom said we got to spend time together, and we got to sit on the porch of the lodge and hold hands and reminisce and be together. And it was perfect. They just were so cute together. And always wanted to be together. And I've had so many people tell me this past weekend about that, about how good they were together, and they were just the perfect team. I'm glad we were able to take them up to Zion with us and have that experience.
Some of the memories I kind of want to focus on are some that a lot of the other siblings and stuff won't remember, because I knew him, besides Mom, probably the longest, because I got to be there when he was a young father, learning how to be a father, making his first mistakes and stuff, but trying and repenting and growing and changing and becoming a better father. I remember him before his heart attack a lot. Well, a lot of my memories are before his heart attack, because the first heart attack was when I was on my mission. So I remember as a child him wrestling with me on the floor. I remember not liking being pinned down, but he was when he'd pinned me down, he'd let me go, and but it was fun wrestling with him on the floor. I remember him becoming the scoutmaster and taking huge amounts of time. Back then, it wasn't a focus on a committee to help the scoutmaster. It was the scoutmaster did everything. He did all the fundraising. He did all everything to prepare to go to camp. I remember taking the little blue trailer down there, loaded clear full of food, up onto the mountain. And up there at camp, I remember it rained every day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then in the middle of the night it would rain, usually just for 10 minutes or so. But I remember one time he got up in the middle of the night to check on everybody, and a big bolt of lightning hit, and he leaned down to get back inside his tent, and the water came down, boom, right on him cold. And then he got back in the tent. And he told me the next morning we had the same tent. But and then I remember going on a hike with the scouts with him, and we just, because we were trying to pack light, it was we had just a tarp and mats and sleeping bags, and so the tarp went on the ground and then up and over us all, and it rained most of the night. But he was on the far outside edge, and I was in towards the seam of the fold. And apparently I got up, and he tells the story. I don't remember it that much, but apparently I've shifted the tarp and dropped a puddle that was on the tarp onto him, which was ice cold. And we got up the next morning, and it was cold, and we weren't really that prepared for the cold, and all the wood was wet. So we had to rally the troop and get them all on their feet and get them moving so they would dry out. The rain had stopped, but it was very cold and shadowy where we were at. So we had to get moving. And So that was one of my fond memories. I remember him taking me to the temple for the first time. I remember one of the fond memories I had was him always giving us Father's blessings for all kinds, whatever special occasions, and for going back to school. That seemed to be something that he always wanted to do. He got better and better at it as time went on, but he told me one time that one of the reasons he had never received a father's blessing from his father, and that was something that he longed for, and that was something he wanted to make sure all his children had. But he never got to receive a father's blessing from his father. For whatever reason, his father didn't feel he was worthy. He could have, but he never did. He never got to do that. I remember Greg. It was kind of a sad memory, but I remember Greg. I got to go down with Greg after I got to go with him at his mother's funeral, and then I got to go with him after his father's funeral, and then after Jeff's funeral, down to Phoenix to his parents' house. And I remember just kind of watching him walk through his parents' house after Jeff had passed away. And he was a temporal orphan. I mean, his parents were then passed on, his brother had passed on. He was the last of his family that hadn't passed on. And so I just remember following him walking through the house and outside, and thinking that thought, that he was the last of his generation, of his family, to still be on earth, and grateful that he was still here. I was very grateful to have a father. I know that the heart conditions and stuff he struggled with since the heart attack when I was on my mission. But I was really grateful that he was there, because if he hadn't have been there, my life would not have been as good as it was, because of his positive influence as a father to be there.
What are a few of your favorite memories about Greg?
My primary one would be the day that I met him. It was up in Park City at a condo up there, and Lesa was going up to introduce me to her family, and meeting Greg and Phyllis for the first time. And it was kind of a different occasion, because I was also at the same time not just meeting for the first time, but going to ask his permission to marry his daughter. And upon meeting him, we talked a little bit with the family, and then Lesa and I went swimming, and Greg came out and watched Lesa and I swimming together, and I think that kind of helped when I went to go talk to him. But later I went and asked him if I could go ahead and talk to him in private in the bedroom, and he's like, okay. I'm sure he probably knew what I was going to do. But he sat down, and I went ahead and was like, I'd like to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage and get your blessing. He's like, well, do you think you can make her happy? It's like, well, I can't make her happy, but I'd be willing to try really hard. It's like, well, that's good. It's important that you keep people happy. And then he started to go on this completely different tangent. Making people happy is really good. Government tries to work making people happy. They do all sorts of things. It's like people wanted like the spaceships, so they went ahead and made NASA build these spaceships to go ahead and go up to space. And it was really important for the moon program. As the moon program was going on, they would build these bigger ships. A lot of it came from the technology of Area 51. Let me tell you what's going on at Area 51. And he would just change to every tangent for about 45 minutes. I wasn't really saying anything. It was this really long conversation of everything else going on. I know Lesa and her mom, Lesa had told her mom what was going on, and they were just in the other room waiting. It's like, what's taking so long? They're going to be killing this guy. And he wasn't killing me. He just went on and on and on about every other thing, from politics to science to philosophy. And it literally was 45 minutes. And finally at the end, he just like, Anyway, yeah, sure, you got my blessing. Go for it. Have fun. Okay. And I kind of got up, and Lesa and Phyllis and Lana were all kind of sitting outside the door looking as I opened the door, and they're just like, yeah, what was it? It's like, I'll tell you about it later. But that was probably my funnest memory of Greg and learning about what his personality was like, that he did like to just go on. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. He could just keep going on with any kind of story on any type of level and change it at a whim. So that would be my primary big memory of Greg.
A few of my favorite memories would be different than everybody else's because I've known him longer. Of course, one of my favorite memories is the day we got married. And he was in a white shirt. And he thought I wasn't going to show up because his father is always early for everything. He got to the Mesa Temple 30 minutes before anybody else did. And Greg thought I chickened out and wasn't going to come and marry him. But we laughed about that a lot. Another time was when each of the children were born, and he was there to be very supportive. The time when Lesa was born in St. George, and Greg was working in Price, and he was driving all night to get there to be with me. He was late, and about 6 a.m, Lesa was born in St. George, and he was still on his way. And just before Lesa was born, she went to her father and she said to him, "It's okay, Dad. Stop and rest, or you're going to crash." So he stopped and took a nap alongside of the road at a park in a town. And then later, about 9 o'clock, he came to the hospital where he got to see Lesa for the first time. And that was very special. Another favorite memory was when Loren was married and all of the children were in the temple together. That was a highlight in our life because that's the way we wanted to be, is together forever. He always worried about the kids and he prayed about them constantly, wanting them to be happy, knowing that the only way that they could be happy is if they were keeping God's commandments. That's the only pathway to happiness. And he loved each one so much that he always wanted them to be happy. One of my fond memories was ironing white shirts. Now, you may think that's silly, but I took great pride in keeping his white shirts ready for him. And he wore white shirts 6 days a week, every day to work and on Sunday. And then with 4 little boys in white shirts, that means I had 10 white shirts to iron every week. And it was an honor because that was my way of honoring the priesthood. I heard many years ago about a lady that complained about her husband when he got home from long meetings, and it really spoiled the spirit. And I was determined, whenever he came home, to ask him how it went and to not complain about the long hours in priesthood meeting or bishopric meetings or care and share. I made a habit of asking him, "Did you help lots of people?" And he took great pride and satisfaction in helping people. That was his life, was to help people. And the morning that he died, he had fixed breakfast for us. And as I got up and got ready to leave for work, he was still sitting at the table. And my last memory would be of kissing him on the neck and telling him thank you for fixing breakfast.